Discovery. Go and throttle up.
Stop. Welcome. If you stayed up with me till this, good for you. If you're watching the VOD, well, hey, you know, you didn't experience it live, but still, that's pretty darn cool. All right. How's everybody doing? This is the Soyuz MS-27 launch coverage. MS-27 is a Soyuz 21A rocket that's launching out of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. This is carrying 2 cosmonauts, but I think it's really cool because NASA astronaut Johnny Kim is on there as well. Johnny Kim is if you want to feel insignificant, you will go read his resume. He is a Navy SEAL, medical doctor, astronaut, pilot. And now he's going into space. So I'm going to pick up the NASA coverage here. And let's see what we got. We got a live shot.
Issues being worked by engineers in Baikonur. Atop that booster, strapped into their seats in the descent module of the Soyuz, that's the center section of the 3-section Soyuz spacecraft, are NASA's Johnny Kim, Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky. Ryzhikov, as the Soyuz commander, is in the center seat of the descent module, flanked to his left by Zabritsky, serving as board engineer number 1, and to Ryzhikov's right is Johnny Kim, serving as board engineer number 2. The crew actually boarded the vehicle just under 2 hours ago after a very smooth morning of pre-flight activities at the Cosmonaut Hotel. We will be receiving a video of all of the morning's activities in Baikonur about 23 minutes from now. This is the first flight into space for Kim and Zabritsky, Ryzhikov's third flight into space, having chalked up 358 days of spaceflight experience on his 2 previous missions.
Are they listening to Troll-a-Long?
The countdown is now at T-minus 54 minutes, 15 seconds and counting to the launch of the
Soyuz is not load and go.
MS-27 crew
Nope,
to the
fuel's
International
already on board.
Space Station. For NASA's Johnny Kim, today's launch marks the start of his first visit to the International Space Station and the culmination of a dream of a lifetime for an astronaut whose past accomplishments are numerous. Let's take a moment to learn more about Johnny Kim and his road to becoming an astronaut.
Yeah, listen to this.
Lifelong learning is the life goal of mine. So when we start off in this world as really young children, we have this uninhibited belief in ourselves that we can go out and do anything. And I think along the way, when we grow up, we lose a little bit of that. We, as adults, as human beings, as learners, are always more capable than we give ourselves credit for. You're never too late to learn something new or to start a new venture, start a new adventure. Yeah, I had the honor of serving our country as a SEAL earlier in my life. And later on as a physician, and now as an astronaut. And I've learned unique things from all of them. This lesson I learned early in SEAL training, to pass the crucible of this training. It's called Hell Week. And essentially, you're up for 5.5 days, no sleep. You get like a couple-hour break. But essentially, for those 5.5 days, you are enduring very harsh physical conditions. After 24 hours, we got our first meal in the galley. Hot food. You were still cold because you're sopping wet and shivering at the table, but it was in a warm environment. And one of the instructors said, I have the entire schedule for the rest of Hell Week. Who wants to see it? And about a dozen people raised their hands and they went over, and about a dozen people immediately quit because they could not humanly comprehend the amount of pain and suffering that was ahead of them. But those who just chose to focus on their next meal, they just had that to work with, not this.
Yep.
Any kind of goal, any kind of mission. If you just think about where you are in the end goal and all the work in between, you're never gonna make it. It's too overwhelming. But if you break that up into much smaller bite-sized pieces, everyone can achieve greatness. And that's what we do here at NASA. Medicine's the last thing I wanted to do. I feel like the universe just kind of picked that path for me, like, you will do this. In order for me to join the Navy as soon as possible, I had to become a medic, or what we call it, a hospital corpsman. So that kind of set the foundation of my introduction to medicine. And then, of course, in the SEAL team, one of my duties was to be the combat medic. And I had the fortune to be able to treat people when they needed help the most. After my experiences in combat and in the military, I just needed to do something else, but I still wanted to serve the public and help others.
Hey, Royal.
And to me, medicine was the natural choice.
Oh, you went to
NASA,
Harvard Med, by the way.
I've been able to kind of put a lot of those lessons that I've learned in my life to practice here. I really feel like I was almost pulled in this direction. I had never seriously considered being an astronaut. It's not because I didn't want to be one, it's just I thought it was unattainable for me, especially as a kid. That started to change as I continued to grow and develop as an adult and have new experiences and realizing, like we talked about earlier, about lifelong learning. It's never too late to learn something new or develop. And so I was very inspired by NASA. It was actually the first Orion mission, right? It was on YouTube. I don't know how it came on my feed, but it was an amazing narration of this mission that I knew nothing about. And that was the first seed for me to be like, wow, NASA's doing something incredible. And they are impacting the community and the world. I would like to be a part of it. And the more I learned about NASA, the more I realized that the same forces that had pulled me into the SEAL teams, into medicine, which is leaving the world better than we found it in our own way, I certainly think NASA does that very, very well. And so I became inspired. I wanted to be a part of the mission, contribute to the mission and help inspire the world and the next generation to make this world a better place, because right now, it's the only one we got. I'm Johnny Kim, and I'm a NASA astronaut.
What a bamf. God, guys, damn inspiration. That's so cool. Man, what a freaking legend. That guy better be going to the moon. That's all I'm saying. Who's the chief of the astronaut office? We gotta give him a
the
call.
NASA astronaut,
Yo,
who is preparing
send this guy to
for
the moon
his
like now.
first launch into space. The countdown clock's ticking backward, just under 49 minutes until liftoff, as you are looking live once again.
Gotta hit the gym.
At the Soyuz MS-27 atop the Soyuz 2.1A booster on the launch pad at Site 31 of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the Central Asian Desert. Again, Kim launching today with Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky of Roscosmos. Liftoff scheduled for 12:47 and 15 seconds a.m. Central Time, 10:47 and 15 seconds a.m. in Baikonur. The countdown is proceeding on schedule. No issues being reported by the launch engineers in Baikonur. The crew flew to the Baikonur Cosmodrome from their training base at Star City, Russia on March 21st for final pre-launch training and inspections of their Soyuz spacecraft. As the three crew members completed their training in Baikonur, the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft was encapsulated in the upper stage of the Soyuz booster in the integration building last week. After the three stages of the Soyuz booster were mated together, the Soyuz rocket began its trek to the launch pad shortly after sunrise Saturday, transported to the pad horizontally on a rail car, in a process that took about 30 minutes to complete.
You can buy those locomotives
at
and
workers.
workers.
Was raised hydraulically to its vertical position for final pre-launch preparations that have been ongoing for the past 3 days. As we monitor countdown clocks ticking backward for the launch of the next crew to the International Space Station just 47 minutes and 10 seconds from now, out on the launch pad at Site 31 of the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the Soyuz booster is poised for launch, fully fueled with kerosene and liquid oxygen as the propellant. The Soyuz 2.1A vehicle is the vehicle for crews that launch to the...
Fun fact, he said it's RP1. It's not RP1. They use naphtha, believe it or not, which is kind of like kerosene, but it's kind of not, but it kind of is.
The Soyuz rocket stands 162 feet tall, weighs about 640,000 pounds, and consists of the Soyuz spacecraft inside a protective shroud at the top and the three-stage Soyuz 2.1A booster below. The first stage has 4 liquid engines strapped to the side of the core vehicle. Each will burn for 1 minute and 58 seconds before they drop away. The core engine of the first stage also serves as the second stage and continues to burn until 4 minutes and 57 seconds into the flight. The third stage has a single engine that will ignite before the separation of the second stage, helping to push it away safely.
Yeah, they use naphtha.
It will burn until the 8 minutes and 46 seconds mark of the flight, and at that point, the Soyuz spacecraft will separate from the third stage, having arrived at its preliminary orbit.
The music that you're hearing in the background is actually being piped into the Soyuz descent module for the crew to hear by the engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur. This is traditional. The crew picks a selection of music to listen to help them relax in the final hour or so of the countdown. Atop that Soyuz 2.1A booster, strapped into their seats in the descent module of the
Mental
Soyuz,
torture while you
which is
wait.
the center section of the 3-section Soyuz capsule, are NASA astronaut Johnny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky. The 3 sections of the Soyuz spacecraft are familiar to those who have watched previous missions to the International Space Station. Here's a further look at that Soyuz spacecraft.
The whole Soyuz spacecraft is 24.5 feet long with an overall volume of 301 cubic feet and comprised of 3 modules. The descent module, situated in the middle of the Soyuz vehicle, contains customized seats for the crew members during launch, entry, and landing, and contains all the controls and displays necessary for the flight. It also houses life support systems, batteries for the re-entry and landing, and the parachute and soft landing rocket engines that slow the Soyuz just before touchdown as the spacecraft lands in Kazakhstan. There are 8 hydrogen peroxide thrusters located on the module, which are used to control the spacecraft's orientation, or attitude, during the descent until parachute deployment. The descent module also contains a guidance, navigation, and control system used to maneuver the vehicle during the descent phase of the mission. This descent module is 7.3 feet long with a diameter of 7.1 feet and a habitable volume of 124 cubic feet.
That's
It is the
not a
only
lot.
portion of the Soyuz that survives the return to Earth. The orbital module at the top is 9.8 feet long. It connects to the descent module via pressurized hatch. This is where the crew has a small amount of room to move around following launch during the flight to the space station. It has a docking mechanism, hatch, and rendezvous antennas located at the front end.
And
The
toilet.
docking mechanism is used to dock with the space station, and the hatch allows entry into the orbiting complex. The rendezvous antennas are used by the automated docking system,
It's a
which
lot
uses
lighter
radar,
than Dragon
to maneuver
Fluffy,
toward
yeah.
the station for docking. There's also a forward-looking window in the module that the crew can use to take manual measurements of distance and closing speed with a laser rangefinder in the event of failure of the rendezvous radar system.
Commander also
The
has
propulsion
a
module
periscope.
houses the oxygen storage tanks,
See the
the main
periscope?
engine, and the attitude control thrusters, avionics, and communication and control equipment.
Fun fact, the periscope's on the wrong side in that graphic. Periscope is up top. The guy in the center, sitting center seat, can look through if he needs to take manual control.
Before they are deployed, the two solar arrays are folded against the body of the propulsion module, which, along with the orbital module, separates from the descent module after the deorbit burn. The solar panels span almost 35 feet. The entire spacecraft serves not only as a crew transport vehicle to and from the space station, but also as an emergency return vehicle in the unlikely event that the
See the
crew needs to
periscope?
leave the station unexpectedly.
Once again, a good look at the base on the launch pad. This is launch pad 6 at Site 31 of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Soyuz 2.1A booster, fully fueled, ready to launch just 42.5 minutes from now to send Johnny space station. The Soyuz will be launching into what is called a phase angle of 14.6 degrees. This basically is akin to you coming onto an on-ramp onto the freeway, hitting the right lane in the freeway for the most efficient path to your destination. In this case, the destination being the International Space Station, with the launch timed to the moment when the Earth's rotation brings the Baikonur Cosmodrome into the plane or corridor of the launch pad and the International Space Station.
Rob, that was a very weird way of explaining that. You could just say it's going to launch when the ISS gets near it. I mean...
Plus 1 minute 54 seconds, just 4 seconds before first stage separation. The launch shroud that basically encapsulates the Soyuz spacecraft itself will be jettisoned.
It should be
at the
fine,
2-minute
Hellfish.
33-second mark into the flight.
I can't speak for YouTube.
4-minute 37-second mark by second stage shutdown. The second stage will separate about 11 seconds later. The third stage lower skirt will be jettisoned just seconds after that. And then the last 4 minutes of powered flight will be under the power of the booster's third stage engine, which will shut down 8 minutes and 46
sick!
seconds into the mission. That will be followed by spacecraft separation about 4 seconds later, and then the pre-programmed deployment of the Soyuz's solar arrays and navigational antennas will begin. We should be receiving launch day video of the crew's activities, the replay of the activities for Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky in about 8 minutes from now. That feed will be coming to us from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. In the meantime, aboard the International Space Station, the 7 crew members are in their post-sleep period, led by Station Commander Alexei Ovchinin. The station currently flying 262 statute miles over the southern portion of Chile, about to begin a southwest and northeasterly trajectory that will carry it across the central portion of Africa and across the Mediterranean. The station flying at an inclination of 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. All station systems operating in great shape, no issues as the crew on board the station awaits the arrival of the Soyuz MS-27.
We should be all right, Ben. The audio quality is crap.
Who will be aboard the station until December. As mentioned earlier, with the arrival of Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky aboard the International Space Station, that will begin the countdown for departure of Don Pettit, Ivan Wagner, and Alexei Ovchinin in the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft. They are scheduled to undock from the International Space Station on Saturday, April 19th, following an 11-day handover with their newly arrived Soyuz crewmates. At the point of the undocking of Soyuz MS-26 on Saturday, April 19th, that will mark the official end of Expedition 72 and the beginning of Expedition 73.
This is a Soyuz 21A launching from Baikonur Cosmodrome.
Always from Soyuz undocking to Soyuz undocking. On Friday, April 18th, there will be a change of command ceremony in which Ovchinin will hand over command to Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi, who will be the commander of the station over the course of the next several months. We're coming up on the T-minus 38-minute mark into the countdown. Again, although the skies are a bit hazy, the temperature is around the 60-degree mark in Baikonur on this mid-morning on Tuesday in the
watching
Central
Johnny
Asian
Kim launch
desert.
into space thing.
All of the Soyuz
with
systems
Sergei
are in good
Ryzhikov
shape
and
as the
Oleg
crew
Novitsky.
awaits the final minutes
Soyuz
of the
MS-27.
countdown that will lead to their liftoff.
Soyuz
and
going to cover this
an 8-minute,
launch. Soyuz going to
46-second
Get
journey
out.
to its preliminary orbit. Some of the countdown highlights down the stretch will include at the T-minus 7-minute mark. One of the engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur will insert a launch key, a real launch key, into the mechanism that will transition the launch sequence into automatic mode. A minute and a half later, at the T-minus 5-minute 30-second mark, Launch Control will issue a final report that the range at Baikonur is clear and the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. At the T-minus 4-minute mark into the countdown, onboard systems will be switched to onboard control. The commander's cockpit displays and controls will be activated.
Rotating service structure retract.
Their helmets to begin placing their suits on oxygen. You now can see the gantry arms beginning to spread away from the Soyuz booster. Those gantry arms closed around the booster on Saturday after it was hoisted to its vertical position at the launch pad to enable technicians access for the hookup of fuel lines and electrical connections to the booster itself. At the T-minus 2-minute 45-second mark into the countdown, the booster tank will be pressurized for flight.
So that says Soyuz MS on it. So Soyuz is the Russian word for Union, and MS is modernized Soyuz. So MS refers to the version of the capsule that they're working on. This is the MS series, so modernized Soyuz version. And that's the name of the rocket. So that's so C, right? O, and then this thing is Russian for U, like YU. And then the 3 is Z. So Soyuz, MS. So C is an S.
And about 20 seconds later,
Cyrillic has letters that we don't have in English. Some of them are similar. Like M is the same. O is the same. But yeah, see the 3 is a Z. This thing, because it's kind of derived from Greek, right? So that's U. This has 3 people on it, Kriex. Yeah, 1 NASA astronaut, 2 Russian cosmonauts. Sergei Ryzhikov is the commander. And then flanked up by him is NASA astronaut Johnny Kim. It's his first flight into space. And then on Sergei's other side is Oleg Novitsky. I don't know too much about him. That's his first. Johnny and Oleg are flying for the first time.
Music of their choice to help them relax in the final hour of the countdown. Here in Mission Control in Houston, Flight Director Anthony Varia has polled his team of flight controllers. They are go for launch. That has been relayed to the Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control
ISS
Center
Mission
in
Control right
Koryov,
there.
outside of Moscow.
They're grid fins that's part of the launch escape system, Flecken. Make cake.
Assuming all goes as planned,
Yeah, they do stuff a little
Soyuz,
differently over there.
Spacecraft with Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky aboard will move into a precise path with a series of engine firings to increase its altitude to match that of the International Space Station, with an automated rendezvous.
What rocket booster do they use? So, Randy, this is a Soyuz 21A. It is a variant in a long line of Soyuz rockets. Guys, Soyuz rockets have been continuously flying since 1966. Oh, there go the gazelles.
Once the docking occurs, there will be a brief period of opportunity for the relative motion between the two spacecraft.
The Soyuz is based off of the Vostok and Voskhod spacecraft, which is based off of the R-7 Semyorka, which was an early ICBM in the earliest parts of the, Cold War in the space program. It would be somewhat analogous to like an Atlas missile, give or take. It originally didn't fly with an upper stage. It flew with a warhead, like the thing that delivered Sputnik was an R-7 Semyorka with no nuclear warhead on top. Zabritsky, not Novitsky, sorry. I forgot that dude's name. That's the crew walking out right there. Dang, dude. Zabritsky's tall.
From earlier this morning, the first order of business to traditional farewell music. The crew departed the Cosmonaut Hotel.
That's the backup
boarding
crew behind
a bus
them.
for a 35-minute ride to the integration and suit-up facility.
This cameraman can't focus. Face the wall, please. Let's close out crew cornbread. They're fine. That's normal. So yeah, the Semyorka gave way to the Vostok, which gave way to Vostok, which gave Voskhod, which gave way to Soyuz. And the Russians basically been using it since. This is what they want. The Soyuz capsule was what they wanted to use for their lunar program, the Zond program, in the N1. But that never happened. So they just kept using it. That would be like if the U.S. never stopped using the Apollo Command Service module. It's a similar idea.
Kim and Zabritsky flanking Ryzhikov, about to embark on their first flight into space. This is Ryzhikov's third flight into space, 358 days of space flight.
Yeah, Ryzhikov's been up there two times prior. So on the side of the bus it says Zvezda, which means star. Johnny Kim's family's there. You can add Russian speaker to Kim's resume. Yeah, right.
Again, you're watching a video B-roll from several hours ago as the crew departed the parking lot outside the Cosmonaut Hotel crew quarters en route for a 35-minute ride into the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Here you now see, after the crew arrived at the integration building, each crew member underwent final medical exams, suiting up in those Sokol launch and entry suits one by one.
I don't think he needs to keep his passport on him.
As you see, the crew members moved into a mock-up of a Soyuz spacecraft seat, allowing technicians to conduct pressure checks, ensuring that their suits were airtight and free of any leaks. As you'll see in a minute, the crew was separated from a fairly large throng of well-wishers and the media through a protective pane of glass to maintain their quarantine, as the RSC Energia technicians conducted the leak checks on their Sokol launch and entry suits.
See? Sounds very much like workers' music. Nice. How do they scratch their nose? Hopefully you don't have an itch during certain portions of the flight, but sometimes they put stuff on their shoulder so you can do that. Those are the Sokol flight suits, Soyuz. That's the chair that they sit in. You're basically sitting like this. You're sitting like this, flying into space. Yeah, I think it's Velcro. But I don't know. These two things right there are the radio. You sit like that all the time. Okay. That says salve on it, and I don't know what it means. So, CAV. Deep press. Thought they were retiring Soyuz. No, I guess not.
Once again, this is video B-roll from several hours ago. The crew having completed their medical checks and suited up in their Sokol launch and entry suits.
Why do Elon spacesuits look so flimsy compared to these? I don't...
Leak checks to their suits.
Flimsy is not what I would describe the Dragon suits.
Before departing the integration building for the ride out to Launch Pad 6, Site 31, and their subsequent climbing on board the Soyuz booster.
Soyuz is probably going to be retire in like 2378. Yeah, something like that.
Good view of Johnny Kim preparing for his first flight into space.
More or less, Klaus, yeah.
While we watch this video B-roll, the countdown is now approaching the T-minus 25.5 minute mark until liftoff.
That's Rob Navius doing the commentary,
All systems remain in great shape on the Soyuz booster and the Soyuz
like
MS-27 spacecraft.
He's a legendary NASA commentator.
He's got a pressure gauge.
Kim the Younger.
He's watching the pressure.
With those leak checks having been completed, you'll see in a moment family members and invited guests looking on across that protective pane of glass, maintaining quarantine. This suit-up procedure now completed, and that occurred a little over 5 hours prior to launch. As you can hear, Ryzhikov and Zabritsky there exchanging final remarks with senior NASA and Roscosmos managers. Johnny Kim did as well. This was a final opportunity to receive a status on vehicle preparations and final expressions of good luck before they departed for the launch pad.
state it one more time? Could you, I'll try.
What are you going to do in space on the first day?
I'm gonna look at the Earth. I'm gonna think of you guys. And I'm gonna try and give you a call.
That's Chris Williams, backup crew. That's Sergei Kudskverchov. That's Oleg Kononenko on the right.
There's Chris Williams next to Sergei Kudskverchov.
Told you.
That was the backup crew for Kim Ryzhikov and Zabritsky.
I don't know what to say. Johnny Kid's belly's just like, I don't know what the hell is going on.
Part of the entourage of invited guests, and there you see Roscosmos officials. The new head of Roscosmos.
Yeah, that guy.
Thank you for sticking to the quarantine. It was wonderful to speak with you. And Alexei, for you especially, best of luck on your first flight. Jonathan, all the best to you. It was wonderful to meet you. All the best. We are cheering for you. We look forward to having you back on the ground. May you complete the program in full and return back safely. Everything is going per plan. We are moving per the timeline. Everything is going smoothly. I want to wish you a good flight and all the best of luck.
See,
Thank you, sir.
There he is. The GOAT.
Please send our best to the crew that is on board.
That guy's the
They
GOAT.
are standing by, waiting for you. May you have a good handover, a good
Hey, Kenny B's there.
launch.
It's Ken Bowersox, shuttle pilot. That's Dana Weigel behind
Excited
him.
to have you guys on board. Ground teams are ready. Flight crew is ready. I'm looking forward to your docking shortly.
Thank you, Ken.
Sergei, Alexei, Jonathan, all the best to you. May you have a successful launch, a smooth flight, and a great docking. All the best.
And you see there
Some real
Ken
talent in
Bowersox,
that freaking
NASA's
room, dude.
Associate Administrator for Space
On
Operations.
both sides
Dana
of the
Weigel,
glass.
ISS Program Manager, part of the NASA delegation there in Baikonur. As tradition called for, the
Ken Bowersox flew the space shuttle a lot. Yeah, look up his resume. Yeah, pretty good. Sergei Krikalev was there, the dude with the really white hair, at the third to last guy to talk. Krikalev, he's been flying into space since the Soviet Union was a thing. In fact, that was his first mission. His first mission went to the Mir space station, and the Soviet Union collapsed while he was on the space station. He is officially the last Soviet citizen. Isn't that weird? Seriously, he had, because he was on a long duration stay up on the space station, to come back down, he came back down to a country that didn't exist anymore. And he had to emigrate from the country he left in to Russia. Dude, he's like goated. That, like, he's flown on the space shuttle. He flew on STS-88. He was the first shuttle, the first ISS assembly mission. He was on one of the first ISS crews. Guy's a legend, man.
complex.
I shook that dude's hand.
The
Boom.
gathering of all of these well-wishers contributing to the wow factor for these launches. Kim there, as you see through the window of the bus. Zabritsky alongside of him. waving goodbye to the crowd as they began to exit the parking lot en route to launch Pad 6, Site 31, where they then boarded their rocket, as you'll see here in a moment or two. And here is the crew's bus arriving at the launch pad.
So that says Svez.
You'll see the crew escorted to the stairs of the pad, climbing a few stairs and waving goodbye to well-wishers before entering the elevator for the ride to the top of the Soyuz rocket, boarding their spacecraft, which they have now been aboard for the past 2 hours.
Face the bus, please. Oh, wait, no. That's the head of Roscosmos on the left. That's how you get into Soyuz, man. You just walk up this flight of stairs into basically a mine shaft elevator. Apparently, Lavitz, like, I haven't been following with Roscosmos news too much, but apparently that dude is pretty good. He's pretty good at running Roscosmos from what I've heard. Really young dude. He's like younger than me, which is nuts to me. Like, that somebody younger than me is running a space program. But yeah, they got rid of the other dude that replaced Rogozin.
To the
It looks a little cold. It's freaking Russia, man. Or not, it's Kazakhstan, but yeah.
To be helped into their respective seats.
There you go.
Sergei Ryzhikov, the Soyuz commander, in the center seat of the Soyuz, flanked to his left by Zabritsky, who is board engineer number 1. And to Ryzhikov's right is Johnny Kim of NASA, board engineer number 2. Back now live with a view of the Soyuz 2.1A booster, the countdown approaching the T-minus 17-minute mark. The International Space Station is flying from southwest to northeast across the Atlantic at the moment, about to cross the west coast of Africa. At the time of launch, the station will be flying 260 miles over northwest Uzbekistan. The station will be about 400 miles behind Soyuz and will pass directly over the Baikonur Cosmodrome 1 minute after Soyuz lifts off. It then will leapfrog past the Soyuz as Ryzhikov, Zabritsky, and Kim climb to their preliminary orbit. 8 minutes and 46 seconds after launch, the third stage engine of the Soyuz booster will shut down. The Soyuz will separate from its launch vehicle and deploy its solar rays and navigational antennas. At that point, the 3 Soyuz crew members will trail the station by 1,008 miles, and the chase will begin, resulting in docking to the Prishal node module on the Earth-facing side of the station's Russian segment at around 4:04 a.m. Central Time, 5:04 a.m. Eastern Time.
I am not going to be staying up for that. Yeah, Soyuz, 3 hour window.
The music that you're hearing once again being piped into the descent module for the pleasure of the 3 crew members on board. This is traditional. The crew picking a variety of its own music.
Morning, what's this?
So that it can have an
Soyuz
opportunity to
MS-27,
relax
man.
in the final
Johnny
hour
Kim's first launch.
of the countdown.
Готовность к пуску 10 минут. Первый. Готовность к пуску 10 минут принял 20-й. Готовность к пуску 10 минут принял 30-й. Готовность к пуску 10 минут принял 50-й. Готовность к пуску 10 минут принял 60-й. Готовность к пуску 10 минут принял
15, so you said T-minus 15 minutes and then some other stuff I don't understand.
Принята готовность к пуску 10 минут. Первый.
There it is.
Forwarded 10 minutes readiness.
Готовность 10 минут.
We copy 10 minutes readiness.
American boy, American boy, American boy.
Who chose this song? Who chose this song? What the hell?
The countdown has now reached the T-minus 14-minute, 20-second mark at the launch site on the steppe of Kazakhstan. NASA officials on hand to watch the beginning of the journey for Johnny Kim, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zabritsky. Leading that NASA delegation on hand for the launch today is Ken Bowersox, who you saw a moment ago in the video B-roll, NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Operations, Johnson Space Center Acting Director Steve Kerner, ISS Program Manager Dana Weigel, Kjell Lindgren, the Deputy Director of Flight Operations here at the Johnson Space Center, and NASA's Chief Astronaut Joe Acaba. And with them is NASA Public Affairs Officer Shaniqua Vereen, who filed this report a short time ago.
Yeah, no, one of the cosmonauts definitely chose that song to screw with Johnny Kim, which is, I think that's pretty funny, dude. They definitely did that to screw with him, which is hilarious. That's pretty funny, dude. Also, okay. 100% that's what happened. What 3 songs would you choose? This one.
Thanks, Rob. I'm here at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The morning is clear and crisp as we await the launch of Soyuz MS-27. I'm currently positioned about 2 miles from Launch Pad 31, where the Soyuz rocket stands poised and ready for liftoff. The weather is ideal with a temperature of about 62 degrees Fahrenheit and a gentle breeze between 5 and 10 miles per hour. The past week has been quite eventful as we prepared for this moment. Our journey kicked off on Friday afternoon when we arrived in Baikonur, escaping the snow back in Moscow. Early Saturday morning, the Soyuz MS-27 was rolled out to the pad, setting the stage for the rocket's upright position in anticipation of launch. This mission will carry NASA astronaut Johnny Kim, along with his Roscosmos crewmates Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky, to the International Space Station. During yesterday's press conference, Johnny outlined his objectives for the mission, highlighting the significance of the research and experiments he plans to conduct. He expressed particular enthusiasm for cancer drug research, hoping that these findings will continue to aid in the fight against various forms of the disease on Earth. In a heartfelt moment at the press conference, Johnny also shared insights into the crew's zero-G indicator. He mentioned that it was a little angel and that Soyuz Commander Sergei Ryzhikov gave each of them one to bring to their spouses, something for them to see and think of while we're away. For now, Rob, we're stationed at the viewing site, ready for launch. Johnny is supported here by his family, friends, and NASA colleagues, all eager to cheer him on as he embarks on this journey. We'll hand it back to you in Houston as the final countdown continues toward liftoff.
Stretching my bag.
Thank you, Shaniqua. That countdown now has reached the T-minus 11-minute mark. We're about 4 minutes away from the point at which the launch key will be inserted in the launch bunker into the mechanism that basically triggers the launch sequence into automatic mode.
The Song Remains the Same by Led Zeppelin would be on there. On Fire by Van Halen would be on there. And, I don't know, pick one more. No, not that one. Magic Carpet Ride, Can't Lift Off. Countdown by Rush. Good call, Yard.
The third stage engine on the booster will fire for an additional 4 minutes, heading uphill toward the preliminary orbit for the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft. Third stage shutdown scheduled at the 8-minute 46-second mark, followed 4 seconds later by third stage separation.
Thanks, Ben.
And then the automated pre-programmed commands will begin the deployment of the Soyuz's solar arrays and navigational antennas.
Thunderstruck? Thunderstruck is a great song, Brandon, but that's the song that everybody is expecting me to say, so How's that chair's lumbar? Really good. I've been just sitting in it for 12 hours straight. Come fly with me. Good call, animal. Route Rasputin. Nice.
Visor should be now closed.
We're approaching the T-minus 9-minute mark in the countdown. Everything is in great shape. The Soyuz fully fueled for launch. There have been no issues being worked throughout the course of the past several hours by the engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur. And as mentioned earlier, the Soyuz will be placed in a trajectory for a 2-orbit rendezvous. This has become customary for crewed missions on Soyuz vehicles to the station.
I got a secret lab chair, yes, man.
An expedited journey of just over 3 hours from the launch pad. In this case,
NASA does play music like this. They play it on the way to the launch site, though, when they're in the car.
In time to the Prishal module.
Prishal.
On the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space
That's
Station.
the nadir side of the ROS.
Coming up on the T-minus 8-minute mark in the countdown.
Yeah, super.
Mark 8 minutes until launch.
Навек. Для остановки нет причин. Иду, скользя, и в мире нет таких вершин. Минутная готовность. Первый. Минутную готовность принял 20-й. Минутную готовность принял 30-й. Минутную готовность принял 60-й.
T-minus 7 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. We're coming up on the point at which the launch key will be inserted in the launch bunker.
Есть провести сброс объекта 60-й. Готовность принял нашу выдуму 70-й.
No, it's them, Jens.
Такой 70-й принял первый.
Favor. We have readiness. Please report your status. Everything nominal on board.
What are the panels on the side of the fairing? Grid fins, Nader. Those are grid fins that deploy in case of a launch escape. They'll deploy to make sure that the capsule stays stable, and then the fairing, the capsule is inside of a specially designed fairing. This white part is the fairing. This will stay with it, and then it'll separate with the RDG traction motors, and then the capsule will separate the orbital module and the service module at the same time, and the chute pops. But the grid fins are there for stabilization. They'll deploy down if the launch escape system is initiated. You know, hopefully not. And yeah, they separate with the capsule. Think of them like the fins on Dragon, same idea. But they're grid fins.
And the key has now been inserted in the launch bunker. The automated sequence now underway.
On my count. 3, 2, 1. Activate the GoldenEye. I mean Soyuz. So the Russians don't need a key to put into Soyuz, just in case people are wondering, like, wait, they're still using a key to like click the thing on like Cold War style? Yeah, they do it as a tradition. The rocket is all modernized. It's running on computers and stuff, but they still turn the key to activate it as kind of a traditional thing. How does one pronounce Roscosmos? Roscosmos. T-minus 5 minutes.
Есть продувка 30-й.
Inside 5 minutes.
50-й. Доклады принял, первый.
The temperature in Baikonur around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, clear skies. awaiting the liftoff of the Soyuz MS-27 and the next trio of residents to take up occupancy aboard the International Space Station.
Nice, Wendy. There you go. Yes, they do, Andrew.
Coming up on the 4-minute mark in the count.
It's not D-Nuke. It looks nothing like
Onboard
D-Nuke,
systems
dude.
now have been switched to onboard control. And the crew members are closing their helmets, their visors on their helmets, putting them on suit oxygen for the remainder of the countdown.
Baikonur launch.
T-minus 4 minutes and counting.
What is the status of the atmosphere?
MS came
No
around
clouds.
probably about 10 years ago.
The fuel lines and the other elements of the rocket engines now being purged with nitrogen that fireproofs them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer from the base of the 2.1A booster.
Because before this, it was TMA. I don't know what that means. They've launched 26 times so far in 10 years. Soyuz, yeah, with MS, yeah, MS-27. It's probably a little bit longer than
Again,
that.
the launch
I'm in space.
precisely
What the
timed
hell,
for
man? Why
moment
would you
where the
gift
Earth's
that
rotation
sub?
places the cosmodrome in the plane or corridor of the orbit of the space station, inclined
T-minus 3 minutes.
51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. A narrow phase angle for this launch of just 14.6 degrees to facilitate the two-orbit fast-track rendezvous. Coming up on the 2-minute, 30-second mark.
Labore. We see the commander and flight engineer. One.
The booster tank now being pressurized for flight,
There we go.
optimizing the flow of fuel,
This is space. I'm in
helping
space.
to add
Thanks for that,
structural
man.
support for the rocket on the pad.
Progress is the name of the resupply capsules, Brendan.
Доклады принял, первый.
T-minus 1 minute, 40 seconds. The ground propellant feed has been terminated.
$90 seconds. Aerodynamics is always important. Kelly.
Coming up on the 1 minute mark. Soyuz about to go on internal power.
They're grid fins, Brewer. Fine, it's fine. It's a Soyuz, man. It'll be alright.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
MS-27 pop. Johnny Kim's first mission. NASA astronaut.
About 20 seconds away from the first umbilical retracting from the side of the booster.
So the top one's going to retract, and then there's a lower one down there that's going to retract. The lower one retracts at 15 seconds.
Vehicle
Есть переход блока третьей ступени на бортовое питание. Есть отрыв второго блока третьей ступени. Есть отрыв холодной пневмоколонны.
It's for the launch escape system, Steve.
There's the retraction of the first umbilical.
Есть мачта 30.
Standing by for the second umbilical to retract and initiate engine sequence start.
Okay, this will go at T-minus 15 seconds. 14,
Auto sequence
13,
initiated, standing
12,
by for engine start.
11,
We have main
10,
engine start.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
ignition.
Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of Soyuz MS-27.
Go,
Kim,
baby, go.
Ryzhikov and Zabritsky begin a sprint
Поехали.
marathon mission on the International Space Station.
Roll program.
Soyuz arcing out to the northeast. Good roll, pitch, and yaw program reported.
Thrusters operating nominally.
All first stage engines operating normally according to the engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur. 40 seconds into the flight.
Pilot normalno.
The vehicle parameters are all reported to be stable.
Stable at 40 seconds. Everything nominal on board.
1 minute into the flight, the International Space Station flying directly over the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The Soyuz booster passing through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
The crew is feeling good.
Pilot normalny. Guidance is good.
All vehicle systems reported to be normal.
All systems on the carrier rocket are normal.
90 seconds into the flight. First stage performance nominal.
Everything nominal on board. Copy.
About 15 seconds away from first stage separation.
Carrier rocket systems are normal.
48, everything nominal on board.
Standing by for first stage separation.
Enter the cross. Let's go.
Roll.
Here we go.
Nominal.
First stage separation reported.
Yeah, baby. Core left cross right there.
The symmetrical departure of the strap-on boosters.
Oh, that's so cool. I haven't watched one of these in such a long time, man. Good clean separation. Second stage now doing the work.
First stage separate.
Vehicle parameters all are normal according to the engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur. 2.5 minutes into the flight.
Come on, Roscosmos, give us an onboard.
36 miles in altitude, 75 miles downrange from the Baikonur Cosmodrome.
Thrusters operating.
Second stage engines all operating normally.
Copy.
The launch shroud has now been jettisoned as planned. The second stage shutdown will come at the 4-minute, 37-second mark into the flight. Launch occurring on time at 12:47 and 15 seconds a.m. Central Time.
Switching to the Russian cast. You know why? Because it's got onboards. Oh, they just switched. Good. I was going to say.
3 minutes, 20 seconds into the flight, all vehicle parameters continue to operate as planned.
Thrusters operating nominally. And everything nominal on board. The crew is feeling good.
Good control of the vehicle. 5 minutes of powered flight remaining.
Nominal flight.
Guidance systems are good.
Board.
4 minutes into the flight. All vehicle systems reported to be in great shape.
Second stage.
About 25 seconds to go until second stage shutdown.
Board.
All systems on the carrier rocket are normal.
Rizhikov reports the crew is feeling good.
Second stage separation.
The guidance system, I think is what he said. Alright, frick this. Let's get the Russian cast going.
We're standing by for second stage shutdown and separation.
There we go.
Third stage oxidizer tank has been pressurized.
The NASA cast is behind. Alright, let's just... I'll put that up there. Stability's good. All parameters on the carrier rocket are normal.
Двигатель третьей ступени работает нормально. 340.
All systems are working normal.
Параметры системы управления в норме. 350. Полет нормальный.
Guidance is good.
360. Тангаж, рысканье, вращение в норме. 370.
By Alexei Zabritsky and Johnny Kim of NASA flying to Ryzhikov's right.
Roll pitch, you're nominal.
380.
All reported to be in good
Двигатель
shape.
третьей ступени работает
A
нормально.
pre-programmed set of maneuvers for the Soyuz 2.1A booster coming up on the 6.5 minute mark in
Yeah,
the
Pop.
flight.
Ракеты-носителя в норме.
2 minutes and 20 seconds. Of
That guy's
powered
basically
flight
just
remaining.
saying all systems are good.
Стабилизация изделия устойчивая.
This third stage engine provides 67,000 pounds of thrust
Полет
for
нормальный.
its
Guidance
4
is good.
minutes of operation to place the Soyuz
Yeah,
spacecraft
Wendy.
into its preliminary orbit.
Vehicle is
Тангаж,
Coming up on the
рысканье,
7-minute mark in the
вращение в
flight.
норме.
Mark 7 minutes. All vehicle parameters
Двигатель
continue to
третьей
operate as
ступени
planned.
работает нормально.
2 hours over on the Soyuz.
Стабилизация изделия устойчивая.
Still good.
third stage.
Полет
Thruster
нормальный.
operating nominally. Copy. The crew is feeling good. Everything nominal on board.
Параметры конструкции
Nothing
ракеты
but good
носителя в
reports
норме.
coming from the Soyuz back to the flight controllers, not only in Baikonur, but there at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow. 7 minutes 45 seconds into the flight, 1 minute of powered flight remaining.
480. Параметры системы управления в норме.
They're at
Third stage.
almost there.
Engine
We're
operating.
looking for 27,000 kilometers an hour. Current speed is 6.5 meter, 6,500 meters a second. But the NASA cast is a little behind, so it's probably a little bit more of that. Altitude is 200 kilometers, downrange distance
8 minutes
1,500.
22 seconds into the flight,
Вращение в норме.
about 30 seconds of powered flight remaining.
Flight.
Параметры системы
A smooth
управления
ride
в
uphill
норме.
so far for Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky.
And
Lost signal.
you may expect
Standing by for third stage
Есть
shutdown and
выключение
spacecraft
двигателей
separation.
третьей ступени. Есть отделение транспортного пилотируемого корабля «Союз» MS-27 номер 758. Транспортный пилотируемый корабль «Союз»
And we have third stage
MS-27
shutdown.
выведен на орбиту искусственного спутника Земли. Репортаж
There we
о
go.
запуске транспортного пилотируемого корабля «Союз»
Didn't really get that good of a shot of separation, but
окончен.
also I think the car alarm's going off.
Third stage shutdown, spacecraft separation confirmed.
Favore, how do you read us? This is Moscow. We read
And we have confirmation of solar array deploy and navigational antenna deploy as planned.
spacecraft.
Уважаемые
Kim,
друзья, это был
Sergei
репортаж о
Ryzhikov,
выводе на
Alexei
орбиту
Zabritsky on their
успешным
way to the
космического корабля
International
«Союз»
Space
МС-27 с международным экипажем,
And the
космонавтом.
Russians are already entering, even the cast, jeez.
Все нам показали, мы увидели и переход всех, отрыв всех ступеней, и реку Сурдарью в Казахстане на территории космодрома Байконур, и отделение створок головного обтекателя, и переходного отсека блоки. Ну, единственное, в конце, может быть, раскрытие солнечных батарей, но мы услышали репортаж о том, что все действительно прошло штатно и успешно. С нами на связи Николай Вдовин с космодрома видел собственными глазами старт ракеты космического назначения. Николай, тебе снова прямое слово.
Check out was nominal. Copy.
So this is a shot of Star City, Moscow.
Ну, это было очень волнительно. Рядом со мной Юлия Барановская вместе со своим сыном.
So this is their mission control here.
Слово просто. У вас такие эмоции сейчас.
So there's the ISS right there. There's Soyuz, MS-27 behind it.
TV is on.
This is your timelines over here. 8:47:15 start. Is what that says right there.
Flawless countdown, an uneventful ride uphill for 8 minutes and 46 seconds for Johnny
Yeah,
Kim
everything
of
looked good
NASA
there.
and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky.
So the current mission over here is Soyuz MS-27. There's the mission time for that. Over here is the other mission, the other crewed mission that the Russians are operating here, which is basic. This is the ISS. So they're operating the Russian segment. So RS, International Space Station. Now keep in mind, their acronym for the space station is not the same as ours because it should say MCC, right? For ISS, right? But they don't call space space, they call it Cosmos, right? So it's MKC, or International Space Station, or Cosmos Station, right? So that's the Russian segment of the ISS, and up here are all the different modules that are attached to the Russian side of the space station right now. This is an onboard shot of Soyuz.
The display panel that Ryzhikov, Kim, and Zabritsky are looking at.
Yeah, that's the MFD. The Russians show the MFD on Soyuz, which is pretty cool.
This is basically the same overlaid video that you'll be seeing in more granular detail a few hours from now when we come back for our rendezvous and docking coverage.
Выполнил переход.
Transition complete.
Yeah, exactly. Cosmonauts, because cosmos is space. That's right, Yuri. Yeah. That's what I was telling him.
Command. Go to the backup transmitter. Copy, work.
So these are all the modules that are up on the space station. So Zarya, Zvezda, Poisk, Raskvet, Nauka, Prichal, Soyuz MS-26, Progress MS-29, and Progress MS-30.
Command to send. Copy.
With the Ascent having been completed, placing Kim, Zabritsky, and Ryzhikov into their preliminary orbit.
You think so, Ken?
Next up will be the first in a series of delta velocity burns.
Delta velocity burns.
About 21 minutes from now. This will be a burn.
Soyuz is a much more mature spacecraft, Callie. That's why it gets there a lot quicker. It's been flying a lot longer. It's a lot more of a matured system than Dragon is.
Operations.
Can anyone go to the ISS speak English? Seems like you need a single common language. Most crew members are bilingual, crewix. However, so Johnny Kim, he's flying on Soyuz. You have to speak Russian if you're flying on Soyuz. Simultaneously, any cosmonauts that are going to fly on Dragon have to know English. It's been that way since the beginning of the ISS, guys. You fly on an American spacecraft, you got to speak English. You fly on a Russian spacecraft, you need to know Russian. And the ISS has had an American and a Russian up there continuously since 2000. Think about that for a second. There's two big parts of the International Space Station. There's the Russian segment, which is there, RS, Russian segment, and then there's the USOS, the United States Operational Segment. Because of those respective mission controls for the USOS and the RS are, well, in the United States and in Russia, you absolutely have to have somebody up there at all times that speaks Russian fluently as their native tongue and English as their native tongue. That is very, very important. So you can communicate with the respective mission controls. You don't want to have only Russians up there and have something go wrong with the American side of the space station. And then you have a language barrier trying to solve an already complicated problem. Which is why we mix crews like this. This is why Johnny Kim's flying on Soyuz, right? This is why cosmonauts fly on Dragon. There's a really, really good, that's the reason. It's a really good reason. The reason is you got to be able to communicate with the respective mission controls in their native tongue, right? Not everybody in mission control here speaks English. Not everybody in the ISS mission control in Houston speaks Russian. You know what I mean?
Time 4:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Docking scheduled at approximately 4:04 a.m. Central, 5:04 a.m.
Of course,
Eastern
Ninja.
Time.
Yeah, you have to.
To bring Kim, Ryzhikov, and Zabritsky to their new home in space. We'll take a break after docking, and then we'll be back on the air later this morning with our third broadcast in the overnight hours of hatch opening. That will begin at 6 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. Central Time, for a hatch opening at approximately 6:20 a.m. Eastern Time. So we'll see you back for those broadcasts as we move.
All right. I'm going to bed. Anyway, great launch. It's awesome to see Johnny Kim in space. I will give you guys an update to what happens, to what's going on with this mission for Space News tomorrow. It's 2 in the morning. I've been streaming for 13 hours. I'm good. I hope you guys enjoyed the launch coverage. It's been a while since we've watched the Soyuz launch. But I'm going to bed. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. You know we're playing Kerbal tomorrow, right? I got to build a Starliner capsule in KSP so we can show DOS that loss of control is a really, really bad idea. Just thought I'd let you know. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.